Now, on BBC Two, we begin a brand new series set in the year 2027 and starring David Calder as Nathan Spring of the International Space Police Force. Star Cops.
From being an amiable sort of script editor writer, I seem to have turned into some sort of carpet-chewing loony.
So I know forever after I will miss you more and more. It won't be easy. No. It won't be easy without you. No. No.
Star Cops originally was pitched for radio. It was running at the time. I altered the presentation. Pitched it for television. Still with the same sort of notion. It was the same thing. I suppose I must have pitched it at the right time. There must have been not too much science fiction going on then. Can't think why not. Anyway, I suppose Blake 7 had finished, and it was time to... Maybe they were looking for a replacement for Blake 7. I don't know. It was... He said yes, he would commission a script. He read that, commissioned another script. The first one was in 2 parts, was intended to be in 2 parts, but Jonathan Powell set his face against that. But anyway, he kept commissioning one at a time.
Got a certain ring to it?
A fairly hollow ring given a force of 20 so part-timers, unaffectionately termed the Star Cops.
That was a cheap journalistic jibe.
Stuck, though, didn't it?
As far as I remember, it was always called Star Cops, yes. I can't remember why I got so enamoured of that particular title. Might even have been something to do with the word processor I was using at that time. I don't know.
What the hell has he got against me?
He was a construction engineer working on some project out here.
Well, he's one of our people.
He's not a Star Cop, no.
No, I mean he was a high frontier.
Somebody did at one stage suggest it should be called the High Frontier. It certainly wasn't me, because the High Frontier was one of Ronald Reagan's phrases for the Star Wars weaponry. And I was absolutely against all of that, so there would be absolutely no chance that I was going to use that as a title for a series. But I think there were several other suggestions, and I think I got my toes dug in again. Nathan Spring. I had used my other sons' names in other scripts. As far as I remember, I think I'd managed to work them into Blake 7, but the youngest, Nathan, I hadn't. And so I used his name. My youngest son's name is Nathan, and that's where Nathan came from. The Spring, I have no idea. I can't remember. No, I probably opened a telephone directory. David Calder is a terrific actor. His performance as Nathan Spring was immaculate, in my view.
Are you analysing me?
Having said that, he was cast against the original concept. He was slightly too old for the part, as originally sort of devised.
What?
The character was, in my mind, was in his 30s, and David was flagged up as being in his early 40s. Having said that, I have no criticisms at all of the way he did it. I am constantly impressed. I've seen him in a couple of things recently. He was excellent. He's a class act, and he I mean, he made the character his own, which is how it should be.
I remember starting rehearsing it, and I knew one or two of the actors in it, and then they were told, you know, I think obviously they got paid, but you know, suddenly they were told, well, we're going to have to cut one. I can't actually remember what the plot was. I always remember there was a German actor who played some sort of scientist who had this long explanation of from this thing, the thing comes out, and it comes out here, and then we do this, and there was some sort of sinister plan behind it all. And he'd learnt this very long technical speech and then got very upset by the fact that he wasn't ever going to be able to do it. But yeah, no, that all happened because of the strike at the BBC. I mean, that was forgotten that we were going to do a two together. I think 9 and 10, and that was 9. And in the end, because of the strike, they could only do 10, and also 10 was very clearly the last episode of the series, which is, I think, the Mayan one where they land on Mars.
Silenzio.
Next.
There's a famous episode which Star Cops fans I always get asked about, which is, I think, was it the last one that went out, where Theroux, the character played by Eric Ray Evans, doesn't appear. And it's very sort of odd that he doesn't appear. The truth of what happened was, it was right in the middle of doing the last 2 episodes, there was a strike at the BBC. And the scene shifters or something, you know, and so one episode was completely cut, and the other episode had to be sort of a rush job. And in the middle of the studio, Eric Ray Evans, Ray, got chickenpox, and he was a man in his 30s, I guess. And if you get chickenpox when you're in your 30s, you're incredibly ill, and he was. Suddenly, it sort of came over him in the course of the day, and he looked bizarre. These great big, I mean, because he's black himself, but even blacker, huge spots all over his face. I mean, he looked absolutely extraordinary, and was incredibly ill, and there was no way we could reshoot it because of it. So Chris, I think it was an episode that Chris had written, and there was no way that David could come in. Chris couldn't come into the studio for whatever reason. So David and I, in the studio with the director, rewrote the script so that Linda, who was playing Pal Kenzie, got all of Theroux's lines, that David and I got all of Linda's lines. And there was a lot of sort of, oh, there's Theroux over there in a spacesuit, you know, when in fact it was someone else, because we couldn't see him, you know, and he was, you know, his character was a part of it, he was sort of around, but you don't see him in the course of the entire episode, so it was all covered up. And we were writing, literally, we were going into corners of the studio just before they shot, rewriting scenes, and then running up with a script, giving it to the camera people, and doing that.
It was my intention to write them all. And I can't remember why I didn't. The episodes I didn't write, I met the writers afterwards. We commiserated. We had a few jars. We seemed to have similar experiences with the production team. In an ideal world, I would have produced it. I think my mistake was to be sort of chicken about the whole thing. Producing was never one of my ambitions, but I think I should have screwed my courage up and and tried to produce it myself. If, well, you know, I mean, who would you like to direct? Well, Douglas Camfield, no question. Or Graham Harper. I mean, Graham did a terrific job. Fantasy Worlds. Who else? Derek Martinez was a very good director and a good sympathetic director with some flair. I'm sure I'm leaving out people that David Maloney directs a decent TV piece. He does.
Why me?
Because everyone else is busy.
Yeah, or on a rest break, which is what I could do.
You prefer to be doing the paperwork on the drugs case?
No,
Yeah, I can.
no,
You sure?
no, I
Okay.
just can't see the point in guarding a whole heap of junk. I mean, why would anyone want to bother with it?
The question's not why, Kenzie. It's who. Go on your bike.
Nathan, that expression went out 40 years ago.
The question has been asked about Nathan Spring and Pal Kenzie's relationship and whether or not it would have developed into something altogether more intimate. Actually, no. I've always resisted. On Blake 7 there was various suggestions that perhaps certain of the characters might move on to more intimate, onto a more intimate footing. I remember Avon and Servalan, for example. There was a suggestion that they had feelings for one another, and in fact that they had absolute nonsense. In a similar way, I am actually quite reluctant to have characters become too closely connected. Basically, to have them shag. It's not something that works well in a series format. What you end up with is a soap, and I'm quite happy for nods and winks, but to actually have them have a sexual relationship which is clear and obvious, no. It makes life too complicated from a storytelling point of view. It's interesting enough from a character's point of view, and probably from the actor's point of view. But that's not what they're there for. They're there to do the writer's bidding. No, I'm inclined. I've always been inclined against it. But they would become friends.
Which just leaves one question to answer.
I still think Star Cops has got legs, and I would quite like to see it walk. But I don't know that the market is there for it. Is there a way of taking Star Cops further? Yes, there are several ways. Is there a market for them? I doubt it. The Cawdor City thing, incidentally, was Alan Stevens' it was his idea completely, and his production completely. And Trevor Cooper's performance on it is brilliant. I can't see there being a way of doing Star Cops in that manner, somehow. I'd like to think there was. But
Oh, I see. Well, put me down for a job in the mines.
I might be working there as well.
Instinct is often far more reliable than logic. Isn't that right, Box? Well done, Spring. Do I use people, Box?
How long an answer do you want?
Brief.
Well, be more specific.
Do I exploit people unfairly?
Is it possible to exploit people fairly?
Box, I am doing this for psychotherapy. I don't want a lesson in semantics.
You have said before that you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs.
Or cookery.
It is part of your job to make people act against their natures. The technique you use is a matter for your own conscience to decide.
As I said, when I watched the episodes back, I suddenly thought perhaps I should go back to radio and try and sound it again. I mean, just a chance they won't know it's recycled.
Thank you, Box. That's all. Good night, Box.